door slid open with a soft ding, and every head in the lobby turned toward me. My heels clicked against the marble floor, sharp and deliberate. I wasn't there to prove anything, just to walk through the same doors I once wasn't allowed near. And then came her voice. Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us where are you from and from which city you're watching our videos. And after watching the whole video, don't forget to tell us what would you do in this situation? Be honest, tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin. Well, look who's pretending again, my Aunt Valerie called out, loud enough for the entire lobby to hear. She was lounging on one of the leather couches near the bar, a crystal glass in her hand, surrounded by her two gossiping friends. Sweetheart, she added, her words dripping with cruelty. This building charges rent. You sure you're not lost? The laughter that followed was high and shrill, bouncing off the glass walls like a cruel echo. I didn't slow down. My fingers gripped the strap of my handbag tighter, my jaw set. Every insult I'd ever swallowed from her burned behind my calm expression. Maybe she's just visiting, Valerie sneered. Or delivering packages? I reached the reception desk, eyes forward, pretending not to hear the mockery. And that's when the building manager, Mr. Green, always stern, always composed, came rushing out from behind the counter. He looked like a man late for a meeting with destiny. Ms. Lawson, he said breathlessly, straightening his tie. Welcome home. The laughter stopped. Valerie blinked. What did you just call her? She asked, her smile faltering. Mr. Green turned politely toward her. I said, welcome home, Ms. Lawson. Her penthouse transfer was finalized this morning. Everything's ready upstairs. The sound of glass hitting marble broke the silence. Valerie's drink slipped from her trembling fingers, spilling across the floor. Her friends just stared, eyes wide, mouth slightly open, as I turned slowly toward her. Oh, I said softly, tilting my head. I thought you knew. I bought the building last week. Valerie's lips parted, but no sound came out. The same woman who once told me I'd never make it without family money now stood in my lobby, speechless, pale, exposed. I smiled faintly, just enough to twist the knife with grace. You should be careful what you say in my building. The walls have a funny way of echoing the truth. Then I turned and walked toward the private elevator, the air behind me thick with shock. Each step I took wasn't just movement, it was closure. Years of humiliation, dismissed dreams, and whispered pity, all melting away under the soft hum of marble floors and disbelief. When the elevator door slid shut, I caught a glimpse of Valerie's reflection in the mirror, her drink-stained hand trembling, her pride collapsing quietly beside her. Finally, I whispered to myself, welcome home, Claire. The door to my penthouse swung open with a soft electronic click, and the familiar scent of cedar and linen washed over me. I stepped inside, heels echoing against the polished marble. Every light in the vast living room turned on automatically, revealing glass walls that opened to a breathtaking skyline. The view of downtown Manhattan shimmered like a promise, one I'd made to myself long ago. For a moment, I just stood there, staring at the city that had once chewed me up and spit me out. My reflection stared back at me from the window, same dark hair, same quiet eyes, but the woman standing there now carried the weight of survival. I set my purse down on the counter and exhaled. The silence of the penthouse wasn't empty, it was earned. But peace never lasts long when someone like Valerie exists. A sharp knock shattered the calm. Not one of hesitation, 3 rapid, entitled taps. I opened the door, and there she was, standing in her designer heels, clutching her handbag like a weapon. Her eyes darted past me, scanning the space, desperate for something to insult. So it's true, she muttered, stepping inside uninvited. You actually bought this place? I leaned against the counter. Careful, Valerie. Your shoes are dripping disbelief all over my floor. She scoffed. Don't flatter yourself. You think buying a penthouse suddenly makes you one of us? One of you, I repeated, letting out a quiet laugh. I wouldn't insult myself like that. Her face tightened. You're still the same girl who begged me for rent money 2 years ago. Don't stand there acting like you're some self-made miracle. I stared at her for a moment, then said, "You're right. I'm not a miracle. I'm the result of every time you told me I couldn't do it." That hit her. The corner of her mouth twitched, the mask slipping for half a second. "You always had that attitude," she snapped. "That's why no one helped you. You burned bridges." "No," I said calmly. "You burned them and handed me the match." She froze. The silence between us crackled with years of resentment and truth unspoken. I turned, pouring a glass of water from the dispenser. "You know what's funny?" I said quietly. "You've spent your whole life pretending to have power, measuring your worth in dinner parties and last names. But real power doesn't need to announce itself." Her eyes narrowed. "And what do you call this? Revenge?" I took a sip and met her gaze. "No. This is me coming home." Valerie let out a dry laugh, circling the room slowly, eyes darting across every detail of the penthouse, the chandelier, the grand piano, the skyline view. Her envy filled the air like perfume. "This is temporary," she said finally. "People like you never stay on top. You'll make one wrong decision, and it'll all come crashing down." I smiled faintly. "Then I'll build it again. That's the difference between us. You inherited. I learned." Her jaw clenched, but before she could answer, the elevator behind her chimed again. Mr. Green stepped out, holding a folder. "Ms. Lawson, here are the updated ownership documents for the building. Congratulations again." He nodded politely to Valerie, then left. She stared at the folder on my counter as if it were poison. You bought the whole building?" "Technically," I said, picking up the papers, "just the tower. The restaurant on the ground floor is still under renovation, but I'll get that too." Her face flushed red, the realization hitting her like a slap. "Do you have any idea what you're doing?" she hissed. "You're playing with things you don't understand. These people, this level, you'll never fit in." I stepped closer, lowering my voice until my words landed like quiet thunder. "I don't need to fit in, Valerie. I own the door they're all trying to walk through." She stared at me, speechless for the first time in her life. Her hand trembled slightly as she clutched her bag, desperate to find some shard of superiority left to hide behind. Then she laughed, a dry, brittle sound that didn't reach her eyes. "You think money changes everything? It doesn't buy class. Or respect." "Maybe not," I said softly. "But it buys silence from people who used to laugh at me." The color drained from her face. Her phone buzzed, lighting up with a message. She glanced at it, and her expression shifted instantly. Panic. "What's wrong?" I asked. She swallowed hard. "The board meeting. My investment partners, someone told them about last year." I tilted my head slightly. "About how you faked the charity report?" Her eyes shot up to mine, wide. "You." "I didn't have to tell them," I said calmly. "They figured it out when your name came up in the background check for this purchase." The tower's legal team did a full review. Valerie's face went blank. "You ruined me," she whispered. "No," I said, voice low. "You ruined yourself. I just stopped covering for you." She stepped back, eyes glassy, searching for the confident woman she used to be, and finding nothing. "Get out of my home, Valerie," I said firmly, "before you embarrass yourself more." She didn't argue. She just stood there, staring at the skyline she once mocked me for chasing, then turned toward the elevator. As the doors closed behind her, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Not victory, but peace. I walked to the window again, watching the city lights flicker below. The reflection looking back at me wasn't the timid girl who once asked for permission to exist. She was gone. In her place stood a woman who built her own worth, brick by painful brick, until the world finally had no choice but to call her Ms. Lawson. And for the first time, I smiled, whispering to the empty room, "Let them laugh. I'll keep building higher." The invitation arrived 2 days later, embossed in gold, sealed with a delicate V. Valerie's name, written in elegant cursive, glared up at me like a challenge. Lawson Charity Gala, an evening of legacy and power. Legacy. The word almost made me laugh. Valerie didn't believe in legacy. She believed in control. And after what happened in my lobby, she needed to remind the world she still had it. I could have ignored it, stayed home, enjoyed the quiet. But something inside me, the part that remembered every cruel smirk, every word meant to make me smaller, whispered, "Go." So I did. The night of the gala, the air outside the Hilton Grand shimmered with flash photography and the scent of expensive perfume. The valet opened my door, and 100 heads turned as I stepped out, not because of the gown, but because they remembered the story. The girl they mocked now owned half the skyline. Inside, chandeliers glittered like falling stars, and the buzz of laughter filled the ballroom. I could feel eyes tracking me as I moved, some curious, some nervous. It didn't matter. I wasn't here to blend in. Valerie stood near the stage, her smile rehearsed, her champagne glass trembling just slightly. She was wearing gold. Always gold, as if it could disguise the cracks in her confidence. When she saw me, her expression froze for a fraction of a second before she forced her lips into a polite curve. "Claire," she said smoothly, her tone honeyed with poison. "You made it." "I did," I replied. "Wouldn't miss it for the world." Her friends hovered nearby, the same ones who laughed at me in that lobby. One of them leaned over and whispered, "Isn't that the girl who used to wait tables downtown?" I turned toward her, smiling gently. "Yes," I said. "And you're the woman who used to leave a $1 tip on a $200 meal." Funny how life changes. A few heads turned. The woman blushed, and Valerie's jaw tightened. "Let's keep things civil, shall we?" she said through clenched teeth. "Of course," I said sweetly. "I wouldn't want to lower the tone of your legacy." Before she could respond, a tall man in a charcoal suit approached, Mark Everett, CEO of Silverstone Investments. He shook my hand firmly. "Ms. Lawson," he said, smiling. "We've been following your real estate acquisitions." "Impressive work." Valerie's smile faltered. "You two know each other?" Mark turned to her politely. "We do now. Claire's firm just acquired the West Side District project, one we were hoping to invest in. Seems she beat us to it." The silence that followed was delicious. Valerie's eyes darted between us, her grip tightening around her glass. "I didn't realize you were in business," she said weakly. "You never asked," I replied. The band started playing, and the crowd shifted toward the dance floor. But Valerie stayed rooted, her pride slowly unraveling. After a few speeches, she took the stage, all grace and fake gratitude. "Tonight," she began, voice trembling only slightly, "is about giving back, about the people who make this city what it is." She talked about hard work, sacrifice, community, all words she'd never practiced a day in her life. And as she spoke, I couldn't help but think about every time she'd told me I was wasting my time chasing dreams. Every time she'd laughed at me for believing kindness could survive in business. When her speech ended, polite applause rippled through the room. Then, to my surprise, she gestured toward me. "And of course," she said, smiling too widely, "we're honored to have my dear niece here tonight, Miss Claire Lawson. Her recent success is a reminder that fortune favors the bold." The spotlight swung toward me. Every face turned. I stood slowly, meeting her gaze across the ballroom. She expected a nod, maybe a polite smile, a quiet surrender. Instead, I walked toward the stage. Her smile faltered. "Claire, this isn't." "I just wanted to say something," I said into the microphone, voice steady. "You're right, Valerie. Fortune does favor the bold, but it also remembers those who were kind when no one was watching." The crowd quieted. My words hung in the air like smoke. "I used to think success was about money or status," I continued. "But standing here tonight, I realize it's about growth. It's about rising without stepping on others to do it." A murmur spread through the audience. I could see some of Valerie's so-called allies exchanging looks. And for those who laughed at me when I fell, I said softly, "Thank you, because you taught me how to stand taller." I handed the mic back, smiled at Valerie's pale face, and walked off the stage to the sound of genuine applause. She stood frozen behind me, her speech forgotten, her mask slipping inch by inch. Later that night, As guests began to leave, Mark Everett approached me again near the balcony. "You handled that beautifully," he said. "Class over chaos. We could use someone like you on our next project." I smiled. "I'll think about it." Valerie passed by on her way out, avoiding eye contact. For the first time, she didn't have anything to say. Her silence was louder than her insults had ever been. Outside, cool air brushed my skin as I waited for my car. The city hummed below, alive and indifferent. I'd come full circle, from the girl no one believed in, to the woman they couldn't ignore. As my car pulled up, I glanced at the skyline once more. Power didn't mean revenge anymore. It meant peace. It meant standing on your own, no matter who doubted you. And as I stepped inside the car, I whispered with a quiet smile, "Let them talk. I've got work to do." The following morning, sunlight spilled through the penthouse windows, painting the marble floors gold. My phone buzzed with unread messages, articles, press mentions, business proposals. The video of my speech from the gala had gone viral overnight. People called it the most graceful power move of the year. I wasn't chasing fame, but I'd be lying if I said it didn't feel good. Then the call came. Valerie. For a moment, I just stared at her name flashing on the screen. The same woman who once told me, "You'll never make it without me." The same voice that haunted every failure and every sleepless night. I picked up. "Morning, Aunt Valerie." Her tone was low, stripped to the arrogance that used to fill every word. "You humiliated me last night," she said flatly. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" "Yes," I said calmly. I told the truth. "That wasn't your moment, Claire. That was my event, my people."
"Funny," I said.
"They didn't seem like yours when they stood and applauded." She was silent for a beat, then sighed. "You think this means you've won? Life doesn't work like that. You'll find out soon enough. People will turn on you." "Maybe," I replied. "But at least I won't turn on myself to please them." She didn't respond. For once, Valerie Lawson, the queen of cutting remarks, had nothing left to say. "Goodbye, Aunt Valerie," I said softly, and ended the call. I set my phone down and walked toward the balcony. The city stretched out below, glittering with possibility. But even as I breathed in that crisp morning air, I knew this wasn't the end. Not really. Because revenge wasn't about destroying someone else anymore. It was about proving to myself that I didn't need their approval to rise. Later that week, I attended a board meeting for my company. The conference room overlooked the river, sunlight catching the glass like fire. My assistant, Mia, smiled as she handed me a new folder. "The deal went through, Claire," she said. "We just finalized the acquisition of Lawson Holdings." I froze. "Wait, Lawson Holdings? As in?" She nodded. "Your aunt's firm. It went bankrupt after her investors pulled out. You're now the majority shareholder." For a second, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Life had just come full circle in the quietest, most poetic way imaginable. "Send her a formal notice," I said after a pause. "And make sure it's kind. No gloating." Mia tilted her head. "You don't want her to know you bought it?" "Oh, she'll know," I said, smiling faintly. "But I don't need to rub it in. Some victories speak for themselves." That evening, as the city lights blinked awake, I stood again in the penthouse lobby. Mr. Green greeted me with his usual calm smile. "Evening, Ms. Lawson," he said warmly. Behind him, the same marble floor gleamed, the same one where Valerie once laughed at me. But now, everything felt different. Lighter. Quieter. A woman passed by, holding her little girl's hand. The child looked up at me and smiled. "You live here?" she asked. I knelt slightly. "Yes, I do." "That's so cool," the girl said shyly. "My mom says people who live high up must be brave."
I smiled at that.
"Your mom's right. But it's not about how high you live. It's about how hard you climbed." She grinned, then skipped away. I turned back toward the elevator. My reflection in the mirrored doors didn't look like a woman chasing revenge anymore. It looked like someone who'd finally made peace with her past. As the doors closed, I whispered, almost to myself, "Not